up, Gabe?
Ian, my friend, I haven't been talking to you for the last 5 minutes at all.
Nope.
I'm just seeing you for the first time right now.
Yes. Just right now.
Welcome everyone to Blank as a Fart. My name is Gabe. That's my friend Ian over there. We're watching Twin Peaks and listening to Ian talk shit about David Lynch.
No,
We're having fun.
Talking shit about Twin Peaks. Not, Lynch is, just caught in the crossfire.
And I quote, Lynch is a hack.
Well, he is. This show is, anyway. It's grinding on me.
At least we got some plot movement this week.
Yeah.
It felt like we picked up a little momentum, which is good because we don't have a lot of time left.
We could have had this episode as episode 2, and it probably still wouldn't have gone anywhere till now.
Well, again, we're tying some plot threads together and joining some worlds, so things are slowly but surely coming together for whatever grand finale Lynch has in mind.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, that might be a better term. You know how Lynch is with endings, folks. He doesn't like them.
Cool.
He leaves it all up to you.
Very exciting.
So yeah, but like I got excited about this one. Like watching this one for my watch through for enjoyment. Like I was excited to dig into the meat of it and do my second watch through and actually like try and describe some of what happened here. But this felt like an important episode to me. It felt like it connected a lot of pieces. But like Ian, your mileage may vary. So, let's go ahead and dig in. Unless you got anything else you want to cover before we start recapping.
There's nothing really glaring on this episode.
No? Nothing that stuck out good or bad for you?
I mean, no, it's just an episode of the show. Yeah.
A fitting episode that again tends to ask more questions than it answers.
Sure.
But it does answer a few, at least. Part 14 begins in the hotel in Buckhorn, where Gordon Cole is dialing a phone in his room. On the other end of the line is the sheriff's station in Twin Peaks, where Lucy answers the phone, and the two do a bit of awkward catching up, Lucy being the literal type again, before she transfers him to Sheriff Truman. Gordon is, in fact, returning a call from the sheriff and is naturally expecting to speak with Harry. He gets the whole obligatory, yeah, I'm his brother, Harry's sick speech from Frank. Before they get to the purpose of the call, Frank wanted to inform Gordon about the messages received from the recently located pages of Laura Palmer's diary, specifically the bit about the two Coopers. Gordon, as ever, has to play his cards close to the vest, but he expresses his gratitude to the sheriff for bringing this information to his attention. I think this is the first conversation we have from Gordon and anybody in Twin Peaks, isn't it?
I think so.
So, yeah, again, there's the implication that things are going to wind up there at some point. Somehow or another, everybody that's in these weird places is going to make their way there. It is the name of the show, after all.
True.
Seems appropriate that this would be the center of the universe. Meanwhile, in the control room the FBI has set up in Buckhorn, Albert is filling in Tammy on the back history of the Blue Rose Task Force. It all began way back in 1975, 50 years ago, in Tacoma, Washington, when two young FBI agents named Gordon Cole and Philip Jeffries encountered a woman named Lois Duffy, who shot an identical double of herself. The duplicate uttered the sentence, "I'm like the Blue Rose," before dying and subsequently disappearing before the agent's eyes. The other, Lois, committed suicide in custody a few days later. Tammy is quick to recognize the significance of the Blue Rose. It does not exist in nature, meaning the other Lois Duffy was not natural, was a conjured being, or, as she puts it, A tulpa. Let's pause here for a second. Is this a term you were familiar with before today?
No.
No. Me neither,
I know
aside
El
from...
Topo, but
No, not quite.
I mean, that movie's even
Did you
weirder.
Google it at all?
So, no, I didn't Google anything. Should I have
Okay.
Googled it?
No, I did that for us.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
It's like, is it close to Mea Culpa? Like, is it somewhat similar?
Mea culpa?
Yeah, is it
An apology?
Yeah, is it similar to that?
No, it's not.
No, has similar sound.
It does. That doesn't mean it means the same thing, though.
No, I didn't mean it. I meant similar. Is it similar? Is it the antithesis of an apology? Is it? Like is it related to?
No.
All right.
Sorry.
I didn't mean it was exactly the same. No.
No, I'm following you. But a tulpa is a thought form or an imagined being created through focused visualization and intense concentration.
Of course it is.
So yes, it's a thought made physical.
This whole fucking show. This is basically the whole show distilled down into one word.
A tulpa. A thought made real. I mean, that's pretty accurate. It derives from Tibetan Buddhism, where it chiefly refers to I'm going to mangle this pronunciation, a Nirmanakaya, or a emanation body. But modern practitioners often view it as a psychological phenomenon. Basically, like some other research or some other schools of thought, like Tyler Durden would be a tulpa, for example. Or Freddy Krueger. You could consider Freddy Krueger a tulpa. Pennywise is a tulpa. It exists in the thoughts of the people who imagine him.
You know how you were talking about, was it last week, about the Big Lebowski and,
Donnie. Yes, Donnie being a figment of Walter's imagination.
But you brought up Fight Club, and I was listening to this guy's theory that more than just Tyler Durden are figments of his, the girlfriend, bitch tits. A lot of those people, they don't actually talk to anybody else but him.
Besides him.
Yeah. And so there's anyway.
No, that's not true, the girlfriend.
I don't know. Someone said he said he watched it and said he doesn't talk to anybody else. It can be construed that she's talking at somebody, but not really to him. Like they're not having a conversation.
That's fair. Yeah, she doesn't ever speak, and I think I did read the book at one point or another.
It is separate. And I don't know. This theory is separate from the book's theory, obviously, but
yeah, anyway, it would have to be.
It's interesting.
It would have to go along, but yeah, no, but yeah, basically, I mean, if you want to get crude about it, a tulpa is an imaginary friend, but as we're going to find out, some people's imaginations are very powerful or can be amplified by certain other energies, so to speak. So anyway, yeah, that's the story behind the name Blue Rose. Does not exist in nature. It is created by the thought of man. The thought and actions of man in the end. Fun. Albert is pleased by Tammy's insight. And Gordon enters the room proclaiming coffee time before his poor hearing aids are savaged by the squeaky squeegee of a highly animated window cleaner. That was some ridiculous choreography right there.
I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous, but yes.
The whole show is ridiculous. I think that's part of the point.
Ridiculous.
But ridiculous. Who was it that coined that? Was that Adam Carolla?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought so.
Love line. That's where I picked it up.
Yeah. Yep. Oh man, that brings back memories. Anyway, Diane enters and waits a whole 10 seconds before lighting up a cigarette. She's once again highly reluctant to talk about the last time she saw Cooper, before he vanished, but Gordon is insistent on learning at least one detail, whether or not Cooper mentioned Major Briggs. After Diane confirms that he did, Albert goes ahead and fills her in on the details of the case they've been covering in Buckhorn, which, let's not forget, Diane has been staying largely away from. Eventually, they come to the wedding ring found in the Major's stomach. This sparks some recognition in Diane's eyes as, in an astonishing coincidence, Janie E. is Diane's estranged half-sister. Oh my god. Who'd have thunk it? I mean,
I wasn't thinking it, so it's like, oh, this is of course, why not? Of course, the two of yes, why not? Sure.
I mean, they got the same kind of fire in them, right?
That doesn't even matter. They're leading actresses for David Lynch. Of course, he wants. Of
course,
to
there's
tie
a
it
connection.
Together. Of course, he wants to connect them together. Like, how fitting.
How fitting indeed. And also fitting is that this gives the Blue Rose team their link to Las Vegas and to Dougie Jones. Gordon has Tammy put him through to the FBI's field office in Sin City and puts out the APB. The team there appears to be a bit of a high-strung bunch. I didn't recognize the actor playing the angry guy at the desk. I IMDb'd him, and it appears he's in Mad Men.
Never saw it, so.
Oh, I thought that was one of your shows.
Nope.
Okay, well then, let's move on. It was slightly amusing in that Lynchian way.
Sure. I'm
sure he thought it was hilarious. It has, similar tone to it to all of those little interludes with Jerry, right?
I will say this, like, it's funny, like Tammy's part of the team now, supposedly, but like she's still like the coffee, waitress, and then she couldn't deliver that coffee any more seductively over to Diane than humanly possible. Like, and even Diane's look at her was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Anyway, and then looking at the coffee like, "What the fuck?" But I was just like, "Come on! If she wants coffee, she'll get up and get it." Like, Jesus Christ, this show is in its coffee. And then the use of Tammy is just kind of like she's just a sexual popsicle or something. Like, he just like parades her around in these very like.
He also serves well for exposition.
Or someone to bounce exposition off of.
Precisely.
She just stares there dumb.
She's kind of the audience proxy here.
Oh, I wish I was.
Like, all she knows is what's in the files, kind of like we do. So,
how about just read the files and then, like, just disperse that information when we need it? We don't need. Like, I'm so tired of these just long exposition spells, dude. It's just so like, aren't we beyond this type of writing? Especially in what was this 2017, 2016? It's like, isn't there
2015 was when they filmed.
Like this is like CW level exposition.
Like, I feel like it does feel forced, and I feel like it is forced. I feel like this is something that Frost kind of makes Lynch do. He's got to, like, okay, we've got to give them some verbal breadcrumbs here to follow the trail.
Yeah, but as
not
the director,
everybody learns
you
visually.
Would cut that stuff out. Like he could be like, nah, and you could just cut it out. That's what the directors do. They get the script from somebody, and then they're like, nope, I'm not doing that. And then we go a different direction. I feel like he's part of this. He's complacent. No, he's
complicit.
Complicit. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. In this,
yes.
in this crime.
Yeah, I won't lie to. I mean, I don't think Lynch is particularly judicious in what he cuts out, particularly when he has the freedom to make an 18-hour movie.
Yeah, he can make an 18-hour silent movie. He doesn't need all this dialogue. I feel like he's just treating us so stupid. That's what makes it feel like a hack.
You would be way more pissed off if he didn't give us anything at all. I think.
Are you kidding? 100% no.
I would.
I would not.
I would anyway.
I would no. I feel like
I don't know. I mean, for me, like stuff like the Blue Rose, that fills in a lot of gaps that I didn't know.
Sure,
Like,
okay, fine, that's fine. We can do it that way. But like the whole ring and the like, they could have looked at that and he eyes could have widened and we could have flown out to Vegas and then they could have confronted her sister and then we could have learned in a confrontation with them two that they were sisters. Like the confrontation of them two arguing with each other and being like blah blah blah. It's like what? She's my fucking sister, you know? And like that's way more interesting than fucking sitting there and there's she's just my sister.
saving that tidbit until they get to Vegas.
Yes,
I don't
it's
know.
way more interesting. The confrontation of them now is just like, okay, they're going to confront each other and they're not going to like each other. Okay, it would have been way more interesting to have that reveal with none of us knowing that until they actually meet each other or engage with each other and be like, then they're angry with each other, and then it's way more interesting. It's way more visually interesting than just having someone stare at the camera and deliver this like, we're sisters and we don't really get along because I hate her. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay.
I can't. I mean, yeah,
I just don't. I don't like any of this.
the other version definitely has that soap opera explosiveness to it, where you would like leave that right before the end credits.
No, that's like what everyone does right now. That's like Marvel film. That's like they don't. That's like not like you're not baiting you into this thing where like, okay, now we know this is gonna happen. Now we know it's gonna happen. Now we know this scene's gonna happen. Now you just like, what is the point of that? Like, it's how you. It's just it's bad storytelling. It's bad visual storytelling because we're not visually telling it. We're just. I could watch this with my eyes closed for the most part and know what happened this episode.
I mean, yeah, well, I wouldn't say that. But anyway,
it's just
there might be a reason why Diane has to convey this information now. I'm not necessarily going to spoil why, but I mean, sometimes you just got to have faith in the process.
Do I, though?
After Diane exits, Gordon fills in Tammy and Albert on the information he got from Sheriff Frank, and then begins to discuss in detail the dream he had about Monica Bellucci the night before. Not quite the same as the dreams I have about Monica Bellucci, but they met for coffee at a cafe in Paris.
I'm curious of what this scene's about. Like, not about, like, why this happened. Because, like, this is also so unnecessary. Okay.
Well, no, it's... Cooper learned so much about what he had to do through dreams. So this is Gordon learning some stuff he should already know through dreams.
I feel like you ran into
whether this is subconscious.
He was like, he ran into, like, oh, you should come to my movie. We'll put you in. We'll just make it up. Yep. We'll just fit it in.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. This wasn't something they went over in the behind the scenes episode this week, so I've got no backstory on that. I know they did legitimately film that scene in Paris. I do know that much.
He's basically using this as a way to get to the other dream or the memory. And it's just like, well, he could just have had that dream as a memory, and you could have explained it away just as easily. Like it's
like without involving Monica Bellucci.
It's like he was in Paris doing something, and like, we'll just do this really quick. I mean, it's just him and her and her friends. It's like, let's just do this really quick. Like, okay.
I mean, that's kind of how the log lady came into being.
Sure,
so.
Exactly. Sure. Is that the end? Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
The end of what?
Like the last time we see Monica Bellucci. It's like there's like cameos that fast. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was totally what happened then.
I mean, I think she gets more time than Richard Chamberlain does, at least, but
well, rest in peace.
He's, yeah. Big ups, Mr. C. Let's see. They met for coffee at a cafe in Paris. She brought some friends, and Cooper was there too, although Gordon couldn't see his face. I like that detail. That makes it feel more dreamlike. Monica spoke to him, saying what he called, quote, the ancient phrase. And the ancient phrase is, quote, we are like the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream. However, then she adds a rather ominous addition, quote, but who is the dreamer? This makes Gordon uneasy, and Monica gestures at him to look over his shoulder, where he sees into the past, Specifically, the scene from Fire Walk with Me, where Philip Jeffries arrives and then just as suddenly disappears from the FBI offices in Philadelphia. He and Albert both suddenly remember the part where Jeffries points at Cooper and says, "Who do you think that is there?" In the worst Southern accent ever invented. They both decide that's really something to think about.
It is.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, relatively, is that Jeffries traveled through time somewhere. Jeffries knows that there's two Coopers when he sees them 30 years ago. So, yeah, there's no time has no meaning in the lodge, essentially. You can enter and exit the lodge, and we've already established this with the way too young corpse of Major Briggs.
Yes.
So this is them putting further pieces together for their own benefit. And I don't think that's out of pocket, because going into the making of Fire Walk with Me, they had already established that there were two Coopers. So Philip Jeffries thinking what he saw was the evil escaped doppelganger, that's not unreasonable to think that was a plot point from the very beginning. That's not something they necessarily shoehorned into now, like Frank Truman, for example.
Right, but isn't that point at Fire Walk with Me, isn't that before Twin Peaks, though?
The point, that point in the story, yes. That's Fire Walk with Me is a prequel to Twin Peaks.
Right. So how would he
but
know?
Still,
how would he
know?
It
was written after.
I get that it's written after, but what is that? That could only mean that whatever. I mean, that Jeffries
would mean that Philip was in the lodge
and came out later,
and that he learned from the lodge.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. That he saw the firemen and the firemen told him, or something along those lines. As we've learned, there's a lot of people who talk to the firemen.
Well, right. That's what we learned in this episode. This is basically he's creating his hypothesis, and then he's backing it up with all this stuff he's created to, hey, this also happened, so this is how I can explain it away. Because everyone goes there and does everything. Fireman's just handing out jobs.
I mean, it's not, so is, how should we call it? I still don't, there's a name that particular character will get later, but it doesn't show up for another episode yet, I think.
Mr. Retcon?
But the one, no, the ghost.
That's a joke.
The ghostly figure. Yeah. The one that's billed in the credits as the experiment.
Ah, okay.
But
that we see in the end.
Well, we'll get there. We'll talk about that later. Let me make sure I didn't skip a scene. I did. Haha. And it's an important one. We go back to Twin Peaks and the sheriff's station, where the fellows are loading up on a variety of sandwiches for their outing into the woods today. They bring Chad into the conference room, but not to join them, to lock the son of a bitch up. That's right. Sheriff Frank has been keeping an eye on Chad's illegal shenanigans for a few months now. We are not privy to what evidence he finally landed to put him away. But regardless, Bobby and Andy haul Chad off to the lockup and strip him of his badge on the way.
Poor Chad.
Fuck you for feeling sympathy for that douchebag.
Best actor in the show.
Okay. That's fine. Second to worst character in the show.
That's all right.
No, well, okay, no. He's pretty far down. But he's a terrible person. The character is a terrible person and deserves everything he gets.
He needs a redemption arc. That's what my whole sequel, my season 4 would be Chad and Leo.
Chad's redemption arc.
Chad and Leo's redemption arcs.
The fireman speaks to Chad.
You must save Leo.
Save Leo.
He's drowning. Put him on the door. Anyway. So what? That doesn't make no sense.
Look out for Spider-Man.
Anyway.
There is a heavy wind blowing in the establishing shot of clouds racing through the treetops. That was a really gorgeous one, gotta admit. I like that one a lot. I can imagine. Do you want? I kind of wonder if he does those, like if he directs those units himself,
I
or if
doubt
he
it.
leaves those to like a second unit director,
Probably just
and
some,
just watches the dailies.
just some.
I don't know. I mean, the way I watch him like touch up makeup and like help with like staging the sets, and like he's really, really hands on with stuff like that.
Maybe, but that's just like a drone shot. Those are
So
all drone shots, I think. So like,
some of them are. That one was stationary, so that one could have been like from a tower at a ranger station or something.
I think it's still cheaper just to throw the drone up and just have it sit there.
I mean, there was that one story about when they were filming the pilot and they were out there at 3 in the morning with the boom mic, just recording the wind,
Hmm?
the real wind in the trees. But he would have been a lot younger then. Let's see. The sheriff's team pulls off along the side of the highway, finding a trailhead and making their way into the forest. A recap I read from a more astute viewer pointed out that this is the same stretch of road where Andy was supposed to meet the one guy that was presumably murdered by Richard Horn. That was going to inform Andy about what he knew about the car accident.
Oh,
Andy went out there and waited for him for an hour, and he never showed.
gotcha.
But yes, it was on that same stretch of road right there, which might have been just convenience of filming. Anyway, quick shot of the power lines and that incessant electric buzz. Bobby's in the lead as he's the one who knows their destination. Jackrabbit's Palace, a spot in the forest near his dad's old post where he used to play when he was a kid. As they travel the road, Bobby shares what few memories he has of being inside the post itself. Mostly just big machines, he says, and it has all since been demolished and removed. They arrive at the spot, and Jackrabbit's Palace is a massive tree stump, probably 15 feet high, fragmented into the shape of a castle. A boyish grin crosses Bobby's face as he reminisces about the good old days. Hawk points out that their true destination is still another 253 yards due east, while Andy reminds everyone that they need to put some soil from the area around the palace in their pockets before they leave.
Cue Frank Truman grabbing and rubbing against the root of the tree, not actually soil, but that's good if you're paying attention to that. But anyway,
I was watching Bobby, honestly, because Bobby kind of like rubbed the dirt in his hand a little bit and let some of it sift through his fingers.
I mean, he's
which also seemed like a weird thing to do.
Yeah, but he's just more of an actor now, you know. He's just like he's feeling
Yeah.
it.
I got to do something with my hand, or else I look boring.
He's also got the
they
high
ventured,
ground, so he's got to like he's more in frame. He's up anyway.
And for the record, that stump is completely real. There was no digital enhancement on that whatsoever.
What?
Yep. That is 100% a real thing somewhere.
Where's their human?
Honestly, that's the one I'd like.
Little carving action.
Nope.
And
they shot it exactly the way they
I don't like this part. I just want to rip this off. I don't like that part. Who's going to tell you? Who's going to tell you? This is not in the book. Anyway.
Well, if it did happen, they didn't show it in the behind the curtain thing. So. They venture deeper into the woods with Hawk in the lead this time. There are some occasional editing tricks to give the appearance that time is moving strangely. I thought my disc was skipping a little bit. I thought it was derezzing, but that little frame skip that happens when you see it from the front and from Hawk's from the lead, that's intentional, 100%. Rounding the corner of a massive fallen tree, they finally find what they are seeking. A cloud of fog parts while electricity flashes and buzzes from somewhere nearby. They see a nude woman laying on the ground near a stone ring containing a thick golden liquid. Andy is the first to.
No, never mind.
What?
No, I'm not gonna say anything.
No, 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 no. Out with it.
I was just
Let's
saying,
hear it.
and this is where it cuts to the porno. Twin Peaks, a vivid parody, triple X parody, and then it's just anyway. Yes, you can imagine.
It's just Golden Shower takes on a whole new meaning, huh?
Axel Bronze, Twin Peaks, triple X parody. This is great. You just splice it in right here. It all makes perfect sense. Anyway, dumb.
Anyway,
just dumb.
the fact that she's naked is dumb.
All my best material.
Oh.
No. My joke is dumb.
Your joke is dumb. Okay, fair enough. Andy is the first to reach the woman, and as he takes her hand and gently rolls her over, we see that it is the eyeless woman that Cooper encountered in the purple room. Named in the credits as Naido. She is still only able to speak in those strange chirping noises that she made before. As the others stand around uneasily, the sheriff notes that the time is 2:53. And as they look to the sky, another vortex begins to open, just like we saw in the vacant lot in Buckhorn. The men all stare up, transfixed at it, and Andy eventually rises from the ground near the eyeless woman, freeing his hand from her grasp, and as the light grows into a blinding white, Andy blinks out of existence. I got goosebumps watching this again. Like when I watched this the first time, I was so excited that it was Andy that got to make the trip.
Okay.
He finds himself in the black and white room that Cooper appeared in back in part 1 to speak with the giant. Sure enough, the giant makes his way in and sits in the chair across from Andy, this time introducing himself as the fireman. So what do you think the significance of that name is here?
I have no idea, Gabe.
Okay.
I was more thinking like, well, this is all shot backwards. Return of the backwards speak. That's kind of just the stuff I was paying attention to. The fireman thing. I don't really. I haven't really thought about that. I can think about it.
There's a couple of thoughts I had about it. One that I'm coming to just now, honestly. But the first is that, like, fireman is something that Andy would recognize from the outset as a good guy, as a hero. Like, that's a term he can use to tell you, hey, I'm on your side. But then what had occurred to me just now is Frank and Hawk looking at that map, at that old map of Hawk's, where he showed in the picture of the black fire, which was like, the electricity. And so the giant is here to try and put that black fire out.
Though there is some black smoke.
So he's the fireman. He's here to save us from the fire. So anyway, the fireman raises his right hand, palm outward, to Andy, and suddenly a bizarre object appears in Andy's hand. A cloud of smoke moves backward through time and condenses itself into the spout of the object, then suddenly flows back up toward the ceiling, where it lights up a dome above Andy's head. As he looks up into it, he sees a series of visions. First, the ghostly figure in the glass box in New York, aka the experiment. The birth of the Bob orb from the ghost's vomit that we saw in part 8. The convenience store haunted by the woodsman, including the only one who speaks. Got a light? Next, electricity moving through the power lines. Then, a scene from the pilot of the screaming girl running through the courtyard at Twin Peaks High School. Panning across red drapes, seeing a portrait, Laura Palmer's homecoming photo, flanked by a pair of ghostly angels. Now to the present, a vision of the eyeless woman and a shaking portrait of Cooper that eventually separates into the two distinct good and bad versions. Next, the telephone at the sheriff's station with line 1 holding a call. That's the blinking one, the one that's blinking right now. And next, Andy guiding Lucy by the shoulders, taking position at the end of a hallway as if to observe something. Back to a vision of the eyeless woman and Andy himself holding her hand. And finally, 3 separate shots of that same haunted power pole we've seen repeatedly throughout the series with the big number 6 on it. The smoke again flows back into the spout of the strange object as the fireman watches impassively. Andy's movements become jittery and out of sync with time as he looks up at the fireman, and in a single blink and a short buzz, Andy is teleported out of the room. We cut to a medium shot of the massive stump that is Jackrabbit's palace, and the sheriff's team begins to fade into view from various shifting perspectives around the area, much in the same way that we've seen the woodsman apparate into the physical realm. The last to appear is Andy, holding the blinded woman in his arms. He matter-of-factly tells the other 3 who are still struck dumb that she is important, and they need to get her down the mountain to protect her from people who are trying to kill her. Frank and Hawk share with each other that they can't remember the events of the last few minutes.
So, thinking about the firemen in this scenario now, thinking about the smoke and the fire and what's coming. And then the pole, obviously the pole they use this kind of, the same pole, 3 shots to emphasize the 6, 3 separate times. So obviously it gives you the 666. Maybe the fireman isn't a good guy. I mean, I get that you're trying to allude that he is a good guy, but what would be a fireman in 666? I mean, it's not a good place.
I think you're reading something different.
No, but I think I could. But I think you could. I don't. Why is this giant? This giant has been nothing but problems. Ultimately,
that's a lie. You know it.
No, no, 100%. Just because there's supernatural and then there's an alternate reality where there's weird shit going on. In this reality where this blind lady was stuck, it could be like a purgatory.
In part 8.
No. Like why? So why emphasize the 6? Why emphasize the 6 3 times like that?
They're not emphasizing the 6. They're emphasizing the pole.
No, they're emphasizing the 6. Go watch it again, because that's the first thing that stuck out to me. 6, 6, 6. That's the only thing that stuck out for me in that whole sequence, really. Because everything else we've seen before.
Not the pole itself.
No, the 6. The 6 is there, and it's the most in focus thing of that whole thing.
It's just the biggest number on the pole.
It's the biggest thing in that. It's directly in the center of the episode of that image.
I might suggest that you're focusing in the wrong direction.
Then why would it be like that then? Maybe you haven't thought about it.
Maybe
it takes.
I mean, there haven't been a whole lot
brain.
Of biblical. Outside of the angels, there haven't been many biblical allegories that we've noted here.
And I didn't think,
particularly where it comes to evil.
And I didn't think them as ghostly. I thought of them as porcelain. And there's like the porcelain hand in the red room.
They actually looked more like projections. Like they were looking from part 8 when they were seeing them on the screen in the theater. The firemen and Senorita Dido.
Because they were also because of the red curtain, so it just all ties that whole like kind of porcelain.
Well, I'm going to make my argument that the fireman is a good guy based on the fact that he gave birth to the golden Laura orb as a contrast to the experiment giving birth to the black Bob orb.
Yes, that's fine. You can make that argument. But there's the argument that Satan isn't actually evil and there is no actual Satan as the devil. Like if you research that kind of information, that isn't actually true. that you can be a fallen angel and still be good. I don't know. I think he's just mixing everything up in a bowl to be, dicky, but like I don't understand why the 6 is so readily just the forefront of all of that.
I honestly don't know either, but based on my knowledge of what comes next,
sure.
I can't help but feel like you're barking up the wrong tree here.
But it's probably the right tree.
But I mean, there are plenty of other connections that you're able to make from those visions that Andy has. Yeah.
Because why does it also like we haven't really established whether the lodge black. Well, I mean, we're doing black and white, so we're obviously doing a heaven and hell comparison. That's not necessarily alien within itself.
No.
Right.
But being that the giant is obviously a representative of the White Lodge, is the White Lodge then the Evil Lodge? I mean, it feels
heaven
obvious
heaven isn't
like,
necessarily a good place. Heaven isn't necessarily. It's been a very
hypocritical. But I would say that
I think if you're cynical, you can look at that. You can look at that as being a very cynical look at.
Yeah, but the spirits that feed on pain and suffering would theoretically be the evil ones, wouldn't they?
But there's some pretty evil shit in that.
You're being argumentative now.
No, there is some evil stuff, like that whole Belle stuff and whatever happened and took over that place and where she was sitting in to begin with. That place is weird. Like, what is that? Like, that doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily good right off. It's not like it's good and not innately good. It has its own issues.
Which space are you talking about now?
When Coop does ultimately go into that place with the blinded chick.
The purple room, yes.
Yeah, there's all these different rooms. Like, what scale on that of the lodge does that between the Black Lodge and the White Lodge? Where does these rooms exist? Like, what is that prism that?
Yeah. I mean, the implication I got was that the room with the theater, where they created the Laura orb,
is the highest.
Is in that same. Yeah, it was like the pinnacle of that building on the island in the Purple Ocean.
But you clearly have this woman that's blind and she's being harassed by something. So it's not like good.
Something that's trying to invade the castle, yes. It's not something that dwells within the castle. It's something that's trying to get in that doesn't belong there.
Yeah, but it wasn't there before when they go back to it the other time. In the other episode. Like when we first go to it with Cooper, it's gnarly. When we go into it in that episode where it's the weird Nine Inch Nails episode, it's not like that.
No, it's not. Because Cooper's not there.
So Cooper's the thing that.
So maybe the thing's trying to get it. Well, no, the thing that's invading it is trying to get Cooper.
I mean, that's just an assumption, right?
That seems reasonable based on the circumstantial evidence given.
I'm just saying I don't think either of these sides are. Plus, if you look at the Black Lodge, you have the one-armed man who's good, hanging out in it,
and helping.
Yeah. So like you.
Yeah.
Again, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I think there's politics within both of these arrangements, and I feel like there are politics within both heaven and hell that are, and whatever.
Okay,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm okay if I'm 100% wrong, but I feel like if anything, if Twin Peaks needs anything, it needs a shot in the arm of like some new blood. So that's what I'm going to bring to it. And I actually can see
the only thing I'm taking umbrage with is your suggestion that the fireman is a bad guy.
Well,
I think it's been very clearly established that he is not.
Fire.
Whatever.
He's not very helpful. He's very kind of. He hasn't been very helpful. He talks in riddles.
Didn't he try to convince Cooper to not let Annie join the Twin Peaks pageant? I think that was a pretty clear warning there.
Yeah, I
think that was him trying to help.
But maybe he wanted her to. He's like, you shouldn't. Like the devil's not.
The
devil's not trying to make you do anything. He's just trying to get some souls. He's just like, I wouldn't do that, but whatever. because that's how he's. There's ways to look at this. I think.
All right. If you're done playing devil's advocate, I think we'll move
see,
on.
you're already on the team. There you go. See, you're already
Anyway, in a holding cell, Lucy is gently dressing the blinded woman in a big fluffy pink robe. From his own cell, a furious Chad hurls insults at both Andy and Lucy, which are echoed verbatim by a drunk in a cell across the way, who appears to be slobbering blood or tobacco juice or some ungodly combination of both into a big ugly puddle on the floor in front of him.
I thought he was like trying to speak to her. Yeah, I thought he was like mimicking her and like trying to speak with her while she was speaking.
He is,
and then he's trying to.
He is mimicking her later, but he's just mimicking everything he hears.
I know, but there's a part where like I felt like it was more real. That he was maybe. That's how it felt.
Oh,
this is really creepy.
Yeah, it is creepy, and the drunk being there, and the drunk in particular, like he doesn't feel real. Like he feels like he's one of those ghostly agents, like the blind woman or like one of the woodsmen. He doesn't, especially given the fact that Andy pays him no mind and Lucy pays him no mind.
The lady with the no eyes, like, did they put wraps on her? I can't really tell. Like in the light, it's weird. It looks like it's skin colored wraps, but it looks still like skin color. Like the red. Like the makeup that was in the forest is not the same makeup that's in the cell.
No, it's not.
Okay, that's just.
But no, it's just the difference in makeup. Okay. And yeah, I think it's specifically like the stitch areas because they line up in the same place. Like there's continuity there, but the coloring looks a little, and maybe it's just the lighting. Who knows? But yeah, there's nothing. Like if you notice a difference there, I don't think that's intentional.
Well, like the scars are not as intense as they were in the forest. Anyway.
Anyway, Andy hurls some real zingers of his own at Chad before guiding his love-struck wife back out of the room. And this time the drunk repeats Andy's words. He then starts to mimic the chirping noise that the blind woman makes from her cell. This naturally encourages Chad to cuss him out, which leads us into another round of the childhood game that never gets old. Repeat what I say over and over. This once again degrades into constant squeaking noises, and Chad attempts to escape his own personal hell by covering his head with his pillow.
Got quite a collection of weirdos down there.
Yeah, it's a real eclectic bunch. It might get weirder still. You never know.
Also, it's interesting because, like, I swear that, like, Twin Peaks' jail wasn't downstairs in earlier seasons, so they must have expanded.
No, it was.
I feel like it wasn't.
I think if you go back, you'll find it was.
Okay. I feel like they just entered the door and they were in it, versus this one, there's an actual staircase now.
I don't remember seeing a staircase.
In this episode, there's a staircase. They go upstairs, up and around. And then this one, and then the old ones, they just would kind of enter into the...
I think there's the implication that it's downstairs because we do see the hallway, like the bare concrete hallway downstairs. In the interrogation room where they talk to Leland. Like that's the impression I always got, was that the holding cells and the firing range were downstairs.
Cool. All right.
But hey, those of you who are watching, go back and check. Let us know. Bet you will never guess what James is up to tonight.
Oh my God,
He's working. Not at the Roadhouse, not strumming the old guitar, mind you. No. His regular gig is a swing shift security guard at the Great Northern.
Didn't even know this
alongside his pal, Freddie. Yeah. I mean, who knows? Freddie, by the way, is the same guy he was at the Roadhouse with back in episode 2. You know, the one with the one green glove on his right hand. As he and James sit at a loading dock, Freddy uses said green gloved hand to crush walnuts with a fine powder with just his thumb and forefinger. Kind of frustrating, as he really just wants to eat one. James helps the poor kid out and cracks one the old traditional way with a nutcracker, while they discuss their plans to hit the roadhouse after the last delivery. James doesn't know who's playing tonight, but Freddy ribs his pal because he knows that Jimmy just wants to see if Renee is there. And it would seem that James has not learned his lesson from 25 years ago because Renee is a married woman. James has a type, huh?
Oh, James. Jimmy, as
Old
Fred calls
old
him.
Jimmy, yeah, old Jimmy changes the subject by mentioning that it's his birthday today, and he uses that as an excuse to convince Freddy to tell him the story behind the green glove. And what a story it is! Buckle in, gang. 6 months ago, Freddy was still living in the East End of London. On a drunken stumble home from the pub one night, he decided to jump into a pile of boxes, and suddenly he found himself sucked into a vortex in the sky, where he met a bloke called the fireman. What? The fireman gives him detailed instructions on where to find a right handed green glove that will give his hand the power of, quote, a pile driver.
See, this sounds like a Satan thing. Would you like power, child? Unwillingly.
What does the
there is
fireman
a there
ask for in return, though?
nothing, but it takes this other thing away from him. He can't ever take it off, and it like causes him to bleed out or whatever if he tries. There is some issues with it. It is kind of a game. I don't know. It's kind of mischievous.
It's unusual. I'll give you that. Freddy wakes up in his bed the next day. Following his given instructions, he sure enough finds the glove. But the obstinate clerk will not allow him to buy an already opened package. The clerk tries everything in their power to prevent Freddy from leaving with the glove, eventually giving chase when Freddy runs. An agent of the Black Lodge, perhaps? Or motivated by one, possessed by one somehow? I mean, really, who would chase someone down for buying an open package with only one glove in it at full price? That sounds pretty silly to me.
I mean, this whole thing is silly, but okay.
Yes, it is. But, I mean, that sounds like something that a bad guy would obviously do. After he's put the glove on, Freddy throws a punch to defend himself and breaks the poor guy's neck. And that's when he suddenly remembers that his destiny was to flee the country and to find his way to Twin Peaks.
Clearly,
Washington.
this is clearly what all good guys do. So clearly, the other guy that said, "I can't sell that to you. There's reasons. My company has reasons for me not to sell this stuff to you. You shouldn't do it." That's kind of like God being like, don't shoot the gun at people. You shouldn't shoot the gun at people. Don't shoot the gun at people. But then people go and shoot guns at people all the time, and then, they flee countries. So this is why the fireman, clearly the good guy. Go for it, Gabe. Carry on.
Anyway. Okay.
I'm on this train now, bro. You can't get me off. I'm on it.
Yeah, I can tell. James is impressed by the story and wonders why the fireman would have singled Freddy out.
James.
Seems that Freddy asked the fireman the same thing, why me? And the fireman's response was, why not you?
See? I don't know. See, it's weird.
It's
weird.
I want to say I've heard that same thing before. Like when an angel asks an ordinary person to like help save the world or help do good, and that person's conflicted. They're like, why me? Well, why not you?
Sure. I feel maybe there aren't good and evil. It's just neutral forces playing this weird game.
See, now that makes sense. That's like, the whole concept of the Buddhist concept of what comes at the end is just like the darkness and the silence, and depending on how you interpret that.
What's our good old friend, bad guy, the chess player from the last
Pete
season?
Martell.
No, from the last. Wasn't the
Oh, Wyndham Earle.
Wyndham Earle was
the
a
bad
chess
guy.
player?
Yeah.
You know. So like I just feel like this is like I feel like there's two forces just playing chess. Like they're putting players like Frank or Freddy is just as a pawn. He's just putting him into play. He's more than a pawn because he has a superpower. You know, he's like a bishop or something. He has like
He's a bishop, yeah.
Yeah, he has.
Well, he's a rook.
Okay,
because he's got one green glove, so it's kind of move kind of funny.
Okay,
you
sure.
know, his power is limited.
All I'm saying is like, whatever is at play here, it's just these two entities battling each other, and I don't know if they really care if they're good or evil to some degree. Like, obviously, the giant
That's
maybe
fair.
the giant is trying to be good in certain regards for certain things, but like obviously the lodge has shown us that the one-armed man is also good and helping on certain things. So it's like I don't know. I can't really explain it, but I don't think there is. I don't think both are good.
The part
I don't.
that confuses me is Mike being like, because it's still kind of fuzzy. Like, is the red drape room, is that the Black Lodge, or is that the waiting room where you access both lodges from? Because then we have
what is the Black Lodge?
the purple sea. Yeah, and then what's the purple sea, and what's the castle out there? Like, that's the new lore.
Sure.
That's the new stuff. So that's the stuff that we don't really understand where it fits in. And like we touched a little bit on the whole thelemic, the Lovecraft shit about like the mauve zone being the realm of imagination and being like the power within our own brains. But if that's the case, then why are we all tapping into that same power then? Like, is that big purple sea
the bad?
No, like is everybody able to access that? Like, is imagination, does it come from a common hive mind place for all of us? An interesting philosophical question.
I mean, even the lobby, if we were going to call it the lodge lobby, I mean, even you have the one-arm man, but even then you have the arm that isn't necessarily bad. Like, maybe he was more bad in the earlier
There were
episodes.
2 arms.
Okay, there's 2 arms.
There were 2.
Okay. Well, the
There's
tree
the good and the evil
brain arm is
There
nice.
were 2 tree brain arms.
Oh, well, there's the one in there that's pretty nice. Like,
and then
it seems
he
normal.
his doppelganger.
Okay, well, there's the doppelganger version.
The one that screams at Cooper and then sends him falling into the void.
Oh, there is that one, isn't there? I just keep thinking of it. But was there 2 of him as when he was the short guy?
Yes.
Okay,
we did see a doppelganger
of him.
Dwarf.
Okay, I don't remember that.
With the spooky eyes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
He didn't ever actually do anything, but we did see him at one point.
Anyway, so like there is a lot of good in the lobby lodge or the Black Lodge, whatever that area is called, versus there is some good in the White Lodge, but it's a very dark, evil place.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you get to powers that you can't understand, when they operate beyond your realm of comprehension, how can you assign qualities like good or bad to them? I mean, these are just 2 forces trying to maintain a balance, and maybe some people interpret their actions one way and some people interpret their actions another.
We're going to talk about this more also when we get to some other scenes, so you should probably carry on.
Oh, we're going to talk about it a lot more before the series is over.
I'm starting to formulate some other stuff due to other stuff we saw later.
That's great.
All right.
That's awesome. Yeah, okay. Here we're in for... Oh, no, there's a little bit more with James here that we didn't cover. James leaves Freddy to wait for the delivery while he heads downstairs to check on the furnaces, which are a pretty spooky area as well. In the furnace room, James can hear that same ringing, humming noise that Ben and Beverly heard in Ben's office. It's much louder down here, and James seems to be able to isolate it down to a curious unmarked door near a generator.
Okay, I had another question about this. I didn't go back to look this up. The guards that guarded the experiment room, are they the same company guards that these guys are branded, or no?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay.
I wouldn't think so, but that would be an interesting
Because they
connection
don't
if they
work
were.
they don't work. I mean, they work at the Great Northern, but they work for another company. So I was just like, and they do
Like they're
security.
contracted out,
Yeah,
you would
because
assume.
they have these other badges on their. I didn't look up. Maybe I don't know. They just seem like they're badged for some private security company, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong. I could be wrong.
No, it's definitely worth looking into. I mean, it's there's lots of security outfits that have similar looking uniforms, but that would be a fascinating little connection indeed. Now we finally learn that the Roadhouse is not the only bar in Twin Peaks. As poor Sarah, with no booze left in her own home, has walked alone at late night to the Elks Point Number 9 bar. She takes a seat at the bar itself and orders a Bloody Mary. Further down the bar, a trucker with a dumb ponytail and a brown hat is drinking a beer and a shot with a pissed off look on his face.
It's a Rainier. Come on, don't get it mistaken.
Are you saying Rainier doesn't count as beer?
No, it does. 100%. It's one
Oh,
of the best beers. I'm just saying that's what
you
it
just want
was.
me to make sure and mention it. Yeah. The first time we've seen
It's not. It's
Rainier's,
the second time, second or third.
yeah,
And Heineken's. Anyway,
we've seen Heineken's. I don't think we've seen a Stella.
no, too highbrow.
Did we see a PBR? I think PBRs came in at some point.
We've definitely seen like a neon sign of PBR.
Yeah. Anyway, the trucker decides after he downs the shot that he's going to go bother Sarah, who's not receptive to company right now. She gently tries to encourage him to leave, but he doesn't take the hint, instead becoming vulgar and abusive, hurling lots of colorful insults about his Neanderthalic presumptions of Sarah's sexuality. After the jerk finally threatens physical violence on her, Sarah turns to stare him down and then removes her face. If you'll recall, Laura did the same thing, but she was in the Black Lodge with Cooper, not in a bar on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Behind Sarah's face, there is no white light, only a blackness. A sharp forked tongue or horn or something jabs out a couple of times. This gives way to an image of a left hand with a blackened and swollen ring finger, and then a cruel smile in an empty void. Sarah's disembodied voice growls, "Do you really want to fuck with this?" She puts her face back on, and then with superhuman speed, lunges at the man and bites off a huge chunk of his throat, somehow managing to avoid getting any blood on herself. Sarah stares for a moment with dark fascination and, dare I say, satisfaction, before screaming and drawing attention to the gory scene, which appears to have gone unnoticed by all the other patrons. The bartender seems to suspect that Sarah knows more than she's letting on, but he backs off after she turns all cold and creepy again.
All right.
That scene really fucked me up the first time I watched it.
This is just
Like that?
I don't know if it fucked me up, but I was just like, okay, what the fuck? I thought she was like,
Yeah.
I thought she was like the victim here. And then in this whole series, we learned that a creature crawled into her mouth at a young age, and then that the White Lodge impregnated her with the golden orb to protect her child, but maybe not now, because obviously Sarah's a demon from hell, and even if Bob was this other thing, like clearly Sarah could protect herself if needed to. Like, I'm so confused as to what the fuck, like what even,
Dude, yeah, you're not the only one.
So I feel like Satan no, anyway, whoever is up in the White Lodge that decided to do this golden orb thing.
Yeah. The fireman.
The fireman.
We'll just say the fireman.
Okay, the fireman.
Yeah.
I don't even know. This is all very weak. Like, I don't.
It's
Like
it, yeah,
that
like,
child was destined to be evil.
I can't
and she was
say
ultimately evil. She's a
was she though.
prostitute. She's into drugs. Yeah, she was caught
She
up in
was
some, but she was in some evil shit. She was
she
kind of
had two
bad.
sides to her.
Yeah.
She also tutored the mentally handicapped. She also volunteered for Meals on Wheels.
So they gave her a
She was
conscience.
also beloved by all of her.
The golden orb gave her a
She
conscience.
wanted to be good.
She wanted to be good, but she couldn't. She couldn't do it because she was her environment, her two evilness parents, obviously.
So yeah, we're touching on theories that we can't fully explore right now without me giving you spoilers.
But the Sarah thing is just like way out of there. Like, why is he really trying to hammer this home? Like, we already had enough of it. Why is it? Why is this? What is the point of this? Like, it's crazy that Sarah's becoming this like. So, the other wild thing is like, then why even feel sorry for her when she's sad? You know, if you go back and watch the episodes, knowing what happens to her, it's like, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, it's kind of weird to have to rewatch that and be like, nah, she's evil. It doesn't really matter. She's
Let's come back to the fact that, like, okay, let's look at Bob and Leland. So Bob possessed Leland. Leland was not a bad person.
right. Okay.
He was morally gray, like he, wasn't faithful to his wife. He hired prostitutes on the side. And there's debate as to whether how much of that was through the influence of Bob and how much of that was through him just being, horny middle-aged man. But I think it's pretty well established through Fire Walk with Me that spirits like Bob, their sustenance is suffering and anguish and pain.
Now, but okay. But are we to believe that the spirit of Bob is born out of the project? Is that what that other episode is kind of the weird arts? We're to believe there was ever whatever
yes.
is like whatever this living thing was and it was tortured and experimented on. That's what created the evil Bob spirit.
Well, it's okay. And
but
again,
also isn't the insect thing born out of that too?
Let's go back to this metaphysical concept that Albert brought up.
So Bob
of
and
Bob.
Insect. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Of Bob just being the evil that men do.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's tie this together with the tulpa theory about a thought or an imagination become real.
So okay. So this is this is what Jimmy and I talk about when we say like you can be you can be you and you can say I would love to just run around and murder a bunch of kids. Haha, but
yeah.
You have a conscience you wouldn't you can think it, but you would never do that because you know the difference between right and wrong.
And then we have a nuclear bomb.
Right. Exactly.
And this is like I think Lynch sees this as like if you look at this theory, like the explanation I feel like part 8 gives you is that the nuclear bomb, Trinity, the original test, served as like an ultimate act of evil. That even though that particular bomb didn't actually kill anybody,
sure,
it was the thought of it,
the harbinger,
the notion,
other yes,
the notion that like
other
the
evil.
imagination of this could be used to murder millions of people at once. This thought, this imagination was powerful enough to give physical form to this ultimate evil, this experiment. And that's the ghostly figure we see, as this is concentrated evil made physical.
But then also, but the ghostly figure and Bob, aren't they both?
Bob is like, okay, think of like Shiva as an aspect of, or think of Kali as an aspect of Shiva. Like some gods are just variations of other gods or offshoots of other gods.
Okay.
They're linked. They're maybe offspring, like Thor and Odin, something along those lines. I would say that's the relationship you get with the experiment and with Bob. Like, Bob is a powerful evil spirit in his own right, but he is birth of, like, without the existence of the experiment, Bob would not exist.
Okay, I have a question. I have another. This is another thing. Now we're talking about Trinity and all that kind of shit. There,
Yeah.
but the frog, locust.
The frog locust. Yes.
Isn't that also a product of that instance? So now you have the
It's an
experiment.
egg. Yeah.
You have the experiment. You have Bob, and you have the locust. You have three things, a trinity, if you will. They're all born out of the same thing, and they're all. Two of them are definitely tied together after Twin Peaks. The other one,
the Mother, the Son, and the Unholy Ghost.
See, there's a way more religious thing going on here than
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah. There you go.
We want to talk about, but maybe there is, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's a very weird, dark undertone version of this, but it is very interesting that, like, there are those three things. They are tied together, and then obviously the experiment is new, but Bob and this locust, the version of Sarah that has the locust in her, when they meet in Twin Peaks, they obviously come together. So I mean, what is the Sarah golden orb, or not Sarah, Laura and the golden orb? What is that in this equation, I guess? Is that us? Like, how we deal with that? Like, this is a huge metaphor, like, for how we deal with these
For
situations.
how people cope with trauma and with the horror.
Like, some of us deal with it differently than others, and others don't. Like
Or how
that?
how does Cooper? Cooper's job is to, like, be the shield against this sort of trauma. So yeah, how does that affect someone mentally over the years? Especially when they are a genuinely good person and not the type of law enforcement that's just there to seek power.
Anyway, I think this brings kind of the end to my high level thinking. I know I was arguing the 666, but I think there is a very religious undertone to all of this. Like,
And
whether
yeah,
it's, I'm not going to
say
that fireman is Satan or whatever, but
okay.
I do think there are.
Yeah.
I do think
I'll reserve my animosity then.
There are agents in both of those. You know, those stories go back forever, of both sides playing both sides.
And you can't assign a strict value of good or evil to either one of those sides, at least not in a human comprehension.
But the idea of the Trinity creature, like all three of these kind of being born out of the same, is very fascinating. Very weird. It probably has nothing to do with it, but who knows?
But it inspires such endless amounts of discussion, doesn't it?
I mean, that's what it's doing right here.
It is.
Anyway, I think that brings the end of my high level conversation. But yeah, this Sarah scene was wild and just fucking like, what? She's also bad? That means all of it is bad. What? Makes no sense.
Well, again, like, was Leland bad, or was he just forced to do bad things?
Sure.
By someone inside of him.
Well, same as Sarah.
So is she genuinely bad, or is there just something inside of her that's forcing her to do bad things so it can live on her suffering?
So they both were going through the same things.
Maybe.
Or it ate away at her and it became her, and she just slowly. But yeah. I mean, she was always kind of weird anyway in the show.
She always had
distant
that,
and kind of
that psychic connection, you know? Like, she was someone who would have gone to tarot readings and, you know, would have been at seances back in the 80s, you know? That's the kind of vibe she gives off.
Wiccan witch, you know, burn him at the stake.
She's a sensitive, you know?
New Age people, crystals, get rid of them all.
So yeah, she's already got, like, a little bit of a tie to the spiritual realm, so to speak.
She is the spiritual realm. Rip off her face.
Or yeah. I
Anyway.
mean, I did like the dichotomy between her and Laura doing the same thing, like with the exact same pose, and one being the white light and one being the black light. I was just, yeah, it just like, it definitely shocked me to attention when I saw this parallel.
That's
I
another
was like,
thing
what's going
then.
on here?
If we're looking at the Black Lodge and Laura is in the Black Lodge and she is a she's a
I mean,
bearer of
again,
the
though,
white light in the Black
can we
Lodge.
think about that as just the Black Lodge, or I don't
Well,
know.
exactly. I don't know either. That's why
A lot of room for debate.
that's why I like to think that the Black and White Lodge, the Black Lodge, even though it's black and white, it's mostly dark and black in there. Like it almost makes me feel like that's the bad area. But whatever. Who knows?
Again, sometimes it's just heaven and hell can be the same place depending on who's interpreting it. It's all a matter of perspective.
That's right. Hell for society, heaven for temperature. Or climate, I think they say.
Hell for the bigots, heaven for the LGBTQT community.
That's no.
Right?
I mean, no. What? No. That's not what I'm talking about.
Well,
That's a whole different thing.
it's
I would like to think that the bigots just die and they don't go nowhere. They don't get an
that would be
after
their
party.
hell, as they don't get experiences.
Well, I don't believe in either of these things as a.
True. Well, it's okay. Going back to what we discussed on Hinduism, where like basically the notion that the end is emptiness, it's nothingness, it's the end of existence. And if you're properly prepared for that, then that's heaven, that's peace. But if you still desire earthly delights, earthly possessions, then that's hell. Then never being able to like eat again, never being able to possess anything again, that concept is hellish to me. Whereas like letting go of suffering is peace. Instead of clinging to suffering because suffering is all that makes me human. No, that's not all that makes you human. That's not all that makes you alive. It's not suffering, it's not desire, it's not want, it's not drive. It's appreciation, it's acceptance, it's understanding.
Appreciation for coffee, Gabe.
Right? And for cherry pie.
And cigarettes.
Hello. All right. Well, we've just got a little bit left, so let's stop philosophizing for now. Let's instead go back to the Roadhouse for another useless conversation between two random young women who we've never met before.
But better actresses.
Or is this conversation useless?
Well, not useless, but better actresses than the ones we've been getting. These two can at least act.
A little bit.
A bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit more. But I couldn't.
Did you see any names in the credits?
Oh, I didn't. I couldn't
that caught your attention?
I couldn't make out the beer. Anyway.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, if you go and look in the credits, one of them is Shane Lynch.
Oh.
And you would think that's one of David's kids, but no.
Jane Lynch?
Kelly Lynch's daughter.
Kelly Lynch. Who's Kelly Lynch?
She was an it girl in the late 80s, early 90s. Who was it that she married and became...
I don't know.
She just ended up being mom. Google her. Like, I remember she was in the movie with Jim Belushi where he ended up being an adopted dad to the precocious, curly-headed girl.
Oh, Curly Sue?
Yes, she was in Curly Sue.
Okay.
So yeah, Google her when you've got the time. But anyway, the two young women, they're actually discussing stuff that we've heard talk about already. See, they're talking about Billy and how one of them was the last person to see Billy and how Billy came rushing in with his mouth and nose just gushing blood and then rushed back out without anyone saying a word. Did we see anyone else this week whose nose and mouth were leaking blood, perhaps?
Is that who that is? The drunk? Is that who we think that is? Or that's
Is
who
it?
is it? He's
I
leaking
don't know.
he's like leaking motor oil and devil juice. Like
It
I
doesn't.
don't.
Yeah, it doesn't look like blood.
Yeah, it's like not. It's gross.
But I mean, his nose and mouth are all messed up, and they're talking about Billy like he's the same way. So
Yeah. I did think
could
about
there be
that.
a connection here?
I did think about that, but I was like, is that?
The young woman who saw Billy mentions her mom's name is Tina. This can't be a coincidence, right? This has to be related somehow to what Audrey was talking about, right? Especially that ominous music cue when Tina's name comes up. And the fact that the one girl is struggling to remember whether her uncle was there or not.
And is her
There's
uncle
just
the little
something
dude?
fuzzy about that memory.
Is the uncle the little dude? Like, or Audrey's husband? No.
Who knows?
Oh, thanks, Gabe. You're so helpful. Oh, Kelly Lynch. It's the one that Patrick Swayze is fucking in Roadhouse.
Roadhouse. Okay,
that Bill Murray likes to call his friend, who she was married to. I guess Mitch Glazer.
Oh, the story.
The
that
story,
he told on
and he calls her up. He's like, "I'm just watching Patrick Swayze. You fuck your wife."
That was a great moment in podcast history. That story, right?
I actually heard this story way before that. It was in one.
Had you heard it before then?
Was in an episode of one of Anthony Bourdain's shows. I forget which one.
Oh,
but he tells it over dinner, and it's fucking hilarious. Yeah, that's the first time I heard it.
That's probably where.
But it's been in podcasts for sure, multiple. He's told it quite a few times now. But that's the first time I heard it was in that Anthony Bourdain.
I forgot that was Kelly Lynch in that story. Yeah.
There you go. Awesome.
All right.
There you go. Full circle, baby.
There you go.
Rest in peace.
Big up, brother. Anyway, the uneasy moment is broken by the beginning of this week's musical performance. Singer-songwriter Lissy and her band performing her single Wild Wild West sends us home for the week. And there you have it.
I kind of skimmed the credits, but I did see it towards the end because in this episode we do get a sequence with David Bowie. It does say rest in peace or in loving memory of David Bowie. I forget what it exactly.
And
I think in peace, but yeah.
I think this may have been the first episode that aired after he passed.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Because
so
that was cool too.
Or at least the first episode. Well, maybe not. But I know he was still they had approached him about being in it.
Oh, that's cool.
But he was too ill to film. So, and then they did approach him about using the voice, and he was very self-conscious about the terrible Southern accent that he used. So, they did use a sound-alike. Oop, I am getting ahead of myself here. Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Spoiler alert. Anyway.
Gabe's trying to leak me some information.
Maybe not. There was this week, Behind the Curtain, part 14, spent most of its time, nearly all of it, in the Jackrabbit's Palace scene. There were 2 different days of filming. Day 1 was just them showing up and walking through the woods, going to the stump and doing all the stuff around the stump. And then day 2 of filming was the area around the vortex and the portal where the golden liquid is. Again, Lynch is very hands-on, building the pond, he's doing all the texturing and sculpting himself. He's spray painting the trees around the set to make sure they look the way he wants them to look. And he's not doing this alone. The crew is helping too, but he is hands-on with that process. This was also the first scene that we've seen of this where he actually kind of struggled. He was having difficulty blocking certain parts of the scene. He's directing the camera, he's directing this, and then he says something well, I don't know what I'm going to fucking do with this part because it just looks so boring right now. And so, this is the first time you actually see any frustration out of him. Something's not going according to plan. Something's not going the way he wants it. Like it's not following his vision.
Having to deal with these old Twin Peaks actors. Ugh. Put me back on the
Well, no,
camera.
it's not the actors he's talking about. It's the scenery.
I know. I'm just.
But yeah, specifically, it's the blocking around the little golden pond that he struggles with, but they eventually get it figured out.
Golden Pond. Do we ever know what that is? Learn what that is, or probably not?
I just always thought of it as a contrast to the pool in the other area, the sycamore trees, because that's full of the black, the scorched motor oil. Like, they don't mention a smell in this scene, but like they always mention the smell of scorched motor oil around. I would assume this would be something really pleasant, like, you know, sandalwood smoke or moss, like something that inspires hope or good overall feelings. But something we never touch on here, unfortunately. There is a fun little moment where Lynch is directing Robert Forster about the scene where he's like looking at his watch and saying, "It's 2:53, fellas." And so Forster actually looks at his watch and he's like, "Wait, 2:53? That's the time in the line?" And Lynch says, "Yeah, it's 2:53 right now." As he's directing him in the scene, and like they both get this weird, like, Lynch does this whoa kind of thing to the camera.
That's funny.
So yeah, and I don't think we touched on this in the recap, but the only significance I can come up with that number, 253, that is the area code for Tacoma. And if we go back to earlier in this episode, we note that the first Blue Rose case happened in Tacoma, Washington.
Right. Tacoma.
So
yeah,
there's your connection there.
Wow. All right.
We also, but outside, yeah, it's like a good 15-20 minutes of that process in the woods doing that scene. And then we get a little bit of time doing the rehearsal of that scene in the holding cells with Andy and Lucy and Chad and the drunk and Naito. The only notes I have from that, it's real basic. Like, it's straight up rehearsal. None of them are in full costume or anything at that point. But my main note from that, watching that, is Andy's gut, not fake. So yeah, I think the gut was real,
that's too
and
bad.
the odd shape that we saw was a girdle.
Poor Andy.
Which, you know, go back and watch Lethal Weapon 3.
Letting it all go.
The notion of men wearing girdles when they're in uniform, specifically.
Just letting it all go. Good on you, Andy.
Hey. You know, he's older than I am, and he looks better than I do. So.
Not true.
So that's, I appreciate that.
I don't think that's true, yeah.
Cooper does, though.
Cooper looks good, but
Cooper looks fantastic for a senior citizen.
He's above the top,
but he has the Hollywood advantage.
He has the Hollywood advantage. He's above the title. You know, he's the lead actor on a show.
Right.
He's like barely in He's like in this in like a fucking separation of like image.
Yeah, this is another very Cooper light episode. Like, we don't get him. We don't get.
And he probably made more than everybody on this episode.
On an episode by episode basis, maybe. But I would say he's also had a more prolific career than pretty much anybody else in the cast.
I mean, yeah.
Aside from maybe Jim Belushi.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's all I've got.
No, I mean, I got to think that maybe Jim Belushi. Jim Belushi's been shitty movies, though. Anyway, we don't need to debate this.
Oh, you know, we did. I did want to bring up, like, I know you had touched on the Discord server recently about how awesome Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was. Did you remember Kyle MacLachlan was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Oh, yes. Quake's dad? Yes, I remember that.
Not just Quake's dad.
The whole season.
But
yeah, that whole season he was in.
Yeah. but not just Quake's dad. He's a legitimate comic character.
I forget which one. I just remember him.
He's
as Quake's
Mr. Hyde.
Oh,
Calvin
right.
Zabo.
You are correct.
Has this big Hulk out scene with the formula, and
yes.
And it was a really cleverly done way of doing that character, and he got a happy ending too in the end.
Very similar to this show.
Is it though? We don't know what kind of ending he gets.
Like Mr. C. He's very aggressive and angry.
His light side and his dark side.
Yeah. You're right, Mr. Hyde. That's right. I forget about that. I just was like, I haven't seen that in so long. How long ago was that? It was a long time ago.
Over 10 years.
That show? So, yeah, it's wild, right?
I watched that show from start to finish. That was like Sons of Anarchy. That was one of those shows that I watched like every episode that it aired.
That season,
from when it started to when it ended.
Like the Comic Lockdown,
I was committed to that one.
That season I wasn't a huge fan of. I mean, it's fine. I enjoyed it.
It was an early season. They were still kind of finding their footing there.
Was that like second or third?
Second season, yeah.
But yeah. But no, I watched all that. I remember all that. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, fun. I remember it fondly.
Bring some of those characters back, Marvel, you pussies. Anyway.
Where's Quake? Quake was awesome.
Anyway.
Yeah, I like me some Chloe Bennett. Anyway, I think that's all I got for the week here. Real quick shout out to friend of the show, Dahmer, providing our theme music. The name of the song is Big Old Dead. You can find that on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, YouTube. You can also find us, Blank as a Fart, on Spotify, iTunes, podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We put out a new episode every week, except for, when life prevents us from doing so. And it's going to prevent us from doing so for the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, we will be taking the next 2 weeks off for a couple of respective vacations.
I also feel bad, Gabe, because then it's going to be on for 2 weeks, and then I'm going to have to kill it again because that week is graduation week, and I have to live stream graduations all that week, and I'm just not going to be able to be here. So it's going to be off 2 weeks, on 2 weeks, and then off 1 week, and then we'll finish it out in July.
Final 2 episodes.
In July. Well, final 2... I think final 2 visual episodes,
final 2 episodes of the series,
and then we'll do a wrap up episode,
and then we'll have our epilogue episode.
But yeah,
so yeah, it looks, if I'm following the schedule correctly,
somewhere in July
we will have
July, something.
No, so next 2 weeks off.
Yes,
that puts our next new episode at Wednesday, May 28th.
Yes,
and then another episode June 4th.
Yes.
Then we will take June 11th off.
Yes.
Then that gives us June 18th and June 25th for parts 17 and 18.
And then
the finale of the series.
In July.
And then our wrap-up episode on July 2nd.
See, you guys are getting us. We're going to hang around for a little while longer. You guys get to enjoy us.
It's going to take us through the summer.
It's like a sweet wine.
So yeah, that's it. That's the plot for the rest of the road, and there's an end in sight here, folks.
We're coming over the peaks.
We're coming over the peaks, and we're coming to rest in the valley.
In more ways than one.
In more ways than one. So thank you for coming with us on this trail, and we hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. I know I'm having a good time.
It's fun.
I like to think Ian is, despite...
As long as Gabe is willing to entertain my harebrained theories, I'm having fun. I know I'm battling him, but I feel like I kind of made some headway tonight. Anyway,
you did, you really did, and I don't think, I really shouldn't. There are no right or wrong theories when it comes to stuff like this.
There's just a fan theory.
So for me to say So for me to say that what you're saying is wrong, that's not right of me. That's just our opinions on our interpretations of the information.
That's how some of the best science happens. Like people keep saying you're wrong, and it's like, well, I'm just going to keep digging and you just keep thinking about something. It's like, well, what
Until
about
I can
this?
prove you're wrong.
What about this? And what about this? And unfortunately, yeah, I'm probably totally
Right.
wrong. I get that. But like,
Well,
there are
I don't
some
think
weird
we'll ever
connections.
uncover-
There are some
Yeah.
weird, like, oh, well,
Yeah,
that is
yeah. I don't think
interesting. Anyway,
we'll uncover enough evidence to determine one way or another
I don't think
who's
you have.
right or
I don't
wrong.
think you have the evidence to say what is right anyway.
You're right. You're absolutely correct. I don't think anybody does.
Like-
and I think that's part of the fun,
Man,
part of the
I
point,
think
and
it
part of the
is.
fun.
Yeah, probably. You're probably correct there, Gabe. Anyway, I need to get to bed.
Thanks again for joining us. Yeah, Ian's got a long day ahead of him, so we're going to cut it short tonight, folks. Thanks for coming along. The final 5 episodes begin in 2 weeks. We'll see you all then. Until then, take care. Let a smile be your umbrella, and keep your eye on the donut, not on the hole.
Oh, yeah.